How do you feel, by the way, now that you're, 1 year older and you've crossed the threshold officially enter senior citizenship?
It is the cliche. It's just a number.
It's just a number. You feel as young as ever.
As ever.
Yeah.
Just remember one thing. You have to respect your senior citizen elders.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of REIN, episode number 21. Today, we're talking about the rate hike. What is Tiff Macklem doing, Patrick? Is he going to set this country on fire? We're going to find out, but more importantly, we're going to talk about what investors should be doing about it. Stay tuned.
Let's get this show started. So, JG, what do we have to do? Beg for subscribers? We do a really great show. We put so much time, so much energy. All we're asking for is to like, to subscribe, to comment. Let us know what's good. Even let us know what's bad. We don't hold it against anybody. It helps us improve the show. So please, like, subscribe, hit the bell, get notifications.
Okay, Patrick, I have 4 sticky notes in front of me. I actually have 5 sticky notes in front of me, but the big conversation that I want to really start with and talk about is the rate hike. I think, did you predict a rate hike? I forget, where are we at with the rate hike? I predicted, because I'm contrarian, I predicted they would lower rates, which means you probably predicted they would raise rates. So definitely I was 100% wrong again, because I'm just fooling around. But they ended up hiking rates again and sending the good old markets in a tailspin. Maybe, maybe not.
Well, it's interesting that everybody had kind of forecast a rate hike. They kept saying, well, it's been built in and they know that there's going to be a rate hike. Yet they have a rate hike and everybody's, shocked and pissed off about it. So anyways, at the end of the day, it was expected and sadly they came through with it. So that's kind of where the rate hike conversation can start.
I guess the question and what, announcing that there's been a rate hike isn't exactly breaking news. Everybody knows that by now. But I think the breaking news is, what should investors do about it? Because as investors, as people who've been investing for a really, really long time, the Real Estate Investment Network's been doing this now for 30 years. You've been at this game for 39 years. I've been at it for 20 years. The point is that it's in these kind of moments of chaos. And even though this chaos gets kind of subdued as time goes on, the chaos that was literally a year ago and into the beginning part of this year, that chaos is kind of subdued. But let me tell you that even though the chaos is subdued, I'm seeing more opportunities today than I've seen in the last several years, because the realities of the market are now catching up to people. The increased interest payments are catching up to people. People have to make a move. They want to sell. They want to get on with their lives, whatever the case may be. The point is, there's some great deals out there, and I'll tell a few stories about that. But what do you think investors, Patrick, should be doing given these rate hike announcements? Because people are really attached to, what am I going to do about the rate hike? But there's some opportunities out there.
Listen,
I'm listening.
At the end of the day, we know that the cost of borrowing is higher. We also know that getting mortgages is more challenging and more difficult. But this goes back to, things that we've been talking about for many months, probably even over the year, which is the creative buying strategies. We know that the demand is starting to get soft, which is really saying that there are motivated vendors out there. There's people that have to get from underneath. So there's motivated vendors, which means that there's opportunities for creative buying strategies, number one. Number two, I think not all markets are markets to jump in. We've said time and time again that real estate is regional, so you have to know the market that you're in. The deals that you were able to take advantage of is because that market like the back of your hand. So when you see these deals, you can make a decision, you can move forward, you can put that offer in, and you can get those deals. You can take advantage of it. So is every place the place to buy? No. But we've always said that it's very regional. The one thing we do know, and this consistently, if we've been talking about this, I don't know, for 3 years. At the end of the day, we know that the rental demand is going to continue to increase because affordability is being pulled away from those individuals who want to buy a house but simply can't. And many who would want to buy a house are going, no, I'm going to rent because I can't qualify, number one. Number two, I don't have the down payment. And most importantly, number three, many people still think that there is going to be an absolute pop of the real estate market. And then the next thing you know, real estate prices are going to plummet. So a lot of fear, a lot of confusion, a lot of uncertainty is driving rents. We know rents are continuing to come up in many regions. And so there's still opportunities for investors who are going in and paying attention to the deals, doing their cash flow, doing their analysis into markets that they know and are doing the research on.
My number one piece of kind of feedback for investors right now, Patrick, whether they're just starting out or experienced investors, is they really have to focus on their timeline. They have got to get clear on their timeline to see, are they investing for the next 5 years? Are they investing for the next 10 years? Are they investing for the next 20, 30, 40 years? Because I'm telling you right now, this is presenting us with incredible moments in time where you can pick up stuff at a great price. I'll talk about price in a second. And yes, you're going to have to pay more interest to have the opportunity to buy it at that great price. But that's exactly what this is. These high interest rate environments have presented people with an opportunity to buy real estate at a great price. And I'll share some stories on that. But all of that gets washed out when you look at your timeline. If you forecast out, Patrick, and I want to ask you a question, because you're the seasoned guy on the block. I didn't call you old. I'm just saying you're seasoned. But you've bought property, and I want you to think back in your memory banks right now. I know I'm putting you on the spot, but think back in your memory banks and tell me a property that you bought that you thought you were overpaying for. Just think about it right now. And you thought, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm spending X number of dollars, probably like $226,000 on this property that you overpaid for. You don't have to stretch out that picture very long that it becomes very irrelevant how much you paid for that property, even though in the moment you thought you paid a lot. I had lunch with an investor yesterday who was buying properties in Oshawa and Whitby and Ajax, and he was buying semi-detached for $225,000. And he thought to himself, he thought he was crazy. He thought, I don't even know if I'm ever going to make money on these things. Those properties are selling for $800,000 today. And that's the point, is that was only 7-8 years ago. When you look at timeline, it washes out these details. Give me an example in your case, Patrick.
Well, I don't, I couldn't come to a specific example. All I know is I always thought I overpaid for real estate. But, when we come down and at the end of it, I look at my real estate portfolio, and I've sold very little of the portfolio per se, that, my core portfolio. The point is all of that is irrelevant to your point, which is, over time heals all of those, what we think are wounds at the time, because it's like you're in the market in the moment. Certainly had a couple of opportunities where I bought those deals and went, no, that's a good deal. But in some sense of it, there's a lot of real estate that I bought over the years that I always felt like I overpaid for it. That's just the psychology of things. But I want to point a couple things out. When we look at what's happening in this country, when we look at the immigration that's coming in, when we look at the job market that continues to be strong, although we got to talk about that a little bit, we know that the fundamentals remain very strong in Canada. So GDP, immigration continues. Is GDP softening? Yes, and we could argue and talk about that. But the point of all of this is, JG, is that interest rates are an influencer. So when we start to create a thesis going forward about where do we see interest rates in 2 or 3 years, do we see them at these kind of rates in 2 or 3 years? I don't. I mean, anything is possible. And certainly, that's why I want to fire Tiff Macklem. But at the end of the day, we look at interest rates, and to maintain this level of interest rates I don't think it will be economically feasible. They're going to have to back off. Now, I'm not suggesting for a moment that they're going back to those ultra low rates, but I think, they're going to have, over the next couple of years, I think we're going to see interest rates come off. And so, you have to look at the future state of that as an influencer.
Well, let's consider that. Let's play out that scenario, Patrick. I just had a deal recently that I purchased, and it's been a fantastic deal. I bought it for $150,000 under list price. $150,000 under list price. You tell me a time when you could buy properties at $150,000 under list price, and you'll be, it's hard to name a time recently where you had those kinds of opportunities. Now, you can buy it at $150,000 on under list price. By the way, this property was available on the MLS. This wasn't a pocket listing. Anybody could have bought this. Nothing special about it. Needs lots of work, needs lots of renovation. We got a great plan. I'll tell you what doors opened up on this. Number one, when you buy it that much under list price and under market value, okay, it may not have been worth what they listed it for, but it's still worth much more than what I paid for it. So I bought it under market value. But what it does when you buy a property under market value, is it opens up exit options. And if you look at this property that I'm talking about here, I'm going to be able to, my plan is to do a flip on it. Now, right now, is it the best time to flip? No, it's not the best economic time to flip because we're not in a boom cycle. And as you're heading into a boom cycle is the best time to flip. But when you buy it at such undervalue, it opens up those options of, yeah, you can flip it, you can convert it into a duplex, or you can convert it into a triplex because of the new Bill 23 in Ontario, or you can convert it into a student rental, or you can assign it. There's all these different exit options, which last year, Patrick, you didn't have these exit options. You bought a property at a much higher rate, you had a better interest rate, but you bought it at a much higher price. And price and interest are obviously have gone in different directions right now. The point I'm making is there's no better time, if you have the right timeline, to say could be a great entry point into real estate, because what I paid for this property in 3 years from now, or even if it's 5 years from now, when interest rates come back down, all I'm going to look like is an absolute genius because I bought it at the right price. Interest rates are going to go up and go down over the course of this career of mine, same as your career, same in everyone's career. But what is fixed in time is what you buy that property at. That's in stone after you buy it. That's your entry price. Then it just becomes, what are you going to do with the property? So, long-winded way of saying, Patrick, that I haven't seen deals like this in the market for many, many, many years, and it's opening up a ton of options. But here's the kicker. Investors have to be educated and they have to have the right tools, specifically the tech tools. Man, there's some incredible tools we're working with that we can touch on later, Patrick, but there's some incredible tools out there, tech tools, to help you identify these opportunities so you can be ahead of the game. And I think that right now it's a golden hour for that.
Well, I think there's a couple things that that we need to kind of unpack, and that's those statements that you made. Number one, there's deals that are out there, but they're not in every market. The conversation you're having, for example, in Peterborough is different than a conversation that they're having in Toronto, which is different than a conversation they're having in Vancouver, or a conversation they're having in Calgary right now. So that's not to say there isn't deals out there. And the one thing that we do need to shine a light on is using the technology to find those deals. There is definitely new technology. We're introducing new technology that's going to support people in finding those particular deals right across the country. The conversation is more regional than it's ever been. During that boom cycle, all boats were rising on a high tide. I mean, how many times did we use that phrase? It's not that way anymore. Tides are coming in into ports at different paces and with different strengths. So the point of it all is that we have to look at those regional markets to know that there are deals out there. And let's face it, it goes back to, the other metaphor that we've used before. When you're looking for gold, diamonds, silver, whatever it might be, you just don't walk down the street and pick it up. You got to dig for it. You got to blow stuff up. You got to look, you got to work. And there is a lot of work to be done, but those deals live there. That gold, those diamonds, they live in the real estate world when you dig and you look for them.
I agree, Patrick, 100%. And I think something you said is bang on, which is real estate is regional, more regional than ever before. But there are deals in every single market. I don't care what market you're in, whether you should or shouldn't be investing in that market. That's a decision you need to make as a sophisticated investor. But in every single market, there are deals. You just got to go digging for them.
You got to dig for them.
That's all about the rate hike. That's all about what investors should be doing about the rate hike, depending on their timeline. Focus on your timeline, ladies and gentlemen. Stop getting caught up in the headlines. Focus on your timeline. Now, Patrick, there's a bit of you want to talk about some Alberta updates? I know that my second sticky note here is an Alberta update. And of course, I would do no justice to give an Alberta update since you're Mr. Alberta.
Well, we'll keep it really short and sweet. There's a fundamental which says more and more people are moving into that province. So the demand in terms of the rental side of the equation is really, really high. It isn't going anywhere anytime soon. That's the first part of it. So we're looking at immigration. We're looking at economically how strong and how much momentum Alberta is gaining as a province. When we look specifically at Calgary, because that is the city that's in the headlines, but really you can go to almost any city in the province. Edmonton is certainly much softer depending on what property type you're looking at. I want to always go back to what I'm seeing in Calgary, which is a propensity for out of province investors to go into Calgary, and they're looking at that condo market, they're looking at that pre-construction condo market. I've said, and I'll continue to say, just be cautious in that market. Work with realtors that understand that market really well. But we're starting to see, number one, a real spike in condo sales in that Calgary market. Secondly, is what we are also seeing is that there is a spike in purpose-built rental units. And I want to just shine a light on this, is that when I'm looking at the numbers, doing the research in that, there is not to say that they're overbuilding by any stretch of the imagination. So Calgary's got a long way to run still in that regard. So if you're seeing this spike in purpose-built, and if you're an investor, you may be thinking, you may come to the conclusion that, oh my gosh, there's going to be a flood of rental units on the market. That's not going to be the case in Calgary. And the other side of it is that there is actually good building overall going on in Calgary. And JG, this goes to say this, that when you look at the municipality and what's happening in Calgary, you look at Calgary as a city, but even overall the province, you can get stuff built, you can get it done really quickly. They don't have the bureaucracy, they don't have the things that are in the way that stop builders from building. And it's just a real stark comparison to, let's say, Vancouver, that takes 10 years to get a high-rise built. Look at Calgary and do that same in less than half the time. Toronto, like Vancouver, there's so many blocks. So the point is this: when we talk about new housing supply and affordability and a strong economy, I think that Calgary, and specifically Calgary and Alberta overall, is still going to be a province that is going to run for a while.
Interesting. Very good Alberta update, Patrick. And interesting to see what's happening. There's some great charts there that we just saw. And one of them really shows the difference between Edmonton and Calgary, which are typically in lockstep, Patrick. But right now they're out of lockstep a little bit. And I know, you're famous for saying Edmonton always follows Calgary, and I'm sure it will. But right now, year over year change in sales, Edmonton is down. Calgary's way up 10% on total. Edmonton is down probably 2-3%. Detached are down in Edmonton, up in Calgary, but both condos are up in Calgary and in Edmonton. And you think that's because of out-of-town investors buying them, which is interesting.
But I want to add here that, I because I don't mind getting political, this is really a tale of two parties. Edmonton as a city is orange. They are NDP. Calgary is not. It's going to be interesting to see what happens economically in those two cities, because Edmonton historically, for as many years as you go back, will always follow Calgary. I don't know if it's going to this time, given the government that's in place. We're going to see.
We're going to see. Time will tell.
Time will tell.
Next, Patrick, I want to talk about some leading indicators, because one of the things that we have is we have some new technology coming down the pipeline. And for those of you that haven't heard about the DI Vault, DI stands for Deal Intelligence. We have some DI Vault events coming up. I think we actually have one tonight, July 13th. We have one, I believe, tomorrow, July 14th. And we have others as well next week. So make sure you click the links. They'll be in the comments below in the description. Click and go get registered for that. But some of the new leading indicators we're tracking, Patrick, is really, really great. And I want to demonstrate this one chart, which I've got it here up on the screen, that shows the blue line and the red line, the hard lines here. You can see those are published data lines. But because our technology is not only tracking the actual published numbers, but we're tracking the actual in the moment numbers right now, what happened yesterday, what happened the day before, what happened this week. As a result, you can see further than the published numbers, and you can see where the trend line is going before the trend line gets there. And this was actually 3 weeks ago, Patrick, when we introduced this technology at our big summit event. We told people, listen, there's a big supply that's going to be hitting the market soon. You're going to start feeling it in some of these communities, and real estate's regional. It doesn't mean it happened in every community, but I was specifically looking at Peterborough, and we made some statements a couple weeks ago. Well, what's hilarious and absolutely incredible, because this is for the first time ever. I mean, as real estate investors, we've always been a little bit looking in the rearview mirror, trying to predict and hope. Now you have real data to see what's going to happen before it happens. And I got some phone calls from a bunch of realtors yesterday saying, oh my God, supply is hitting the market like crazy. I got 8-9 listings just in the last week. We were saying this was going to happen 3 weeks ago, and it's now happening in real time this week. And I think that's absolutely incredible, Patrick, because These are the kinds of tools that real estate investors need to have if they're going to be one step ahead of this market, because real estate now is in a place where you really don't want to make a mistake. If you make a mistake, it can be very, very costly. These kinds of tools make sure that you don't make mistakes. And as a result, investors are better off for it.
Well, when you look at the data, when you look at a tool like this, there's no emotion involved, number one. There's no hidden agenda. So in other words, it's just giving you the data, and you can then take the data, and guess what? The data is the data. You get to then look at it, make a decision, see the trend, see where it's going, and make a decision based on that. There isn't anybody prompting you, well, hey, this is a deal that's never going to be again. There's none of that. Here's the data. What do you want to do?
The other thing is, I'm going to put up another chart here. The sales to new listing ratio is a common number that a lot of real estate investors track. And the reason that people track it is because it tells you whether or not a market is a seller's market, a balanced market, or a buyer's market. If you're trying to, for example, flip a property, or you're trying to sell property, well, if you're going in the seller's market, that's great. It means you're going to get a better price. If you're looking to buy real estate, then if you're in a buyer's market, it means you can negotiate differently. It means you can put different conditions in your offer. It really drives a lot of the tools we have at our disposal as real estate investors. Again, back to the leading indicators, most of this stuff is published numbers, meaning the published numbers you see out there right now today, they're actually numbers, Patrick, as you know, from May. Most places haven't even published their June numbers yet. So you're literally operating on data that's 2 months old. We actually have this data now up to the minute. And you could see, and if you look at this chart, and if you look on the right-hand side of this, you can see how we're heading in this particular community. I think I pulled this chart off Peterborough. You can actually see how it's heading a little bit off of a seller's market and into a balanced market, which is why it's opening up some of these opportunities. So again, I'm super pumped about these indicators, these leading indicators, Patrick, because it gives us investors tools. If you have these tools, you can make better decisions and you can get better deals. And that's what it's all about.
It is, and there's something that we have to, really kind of shine a light on. When there is the froth of a boom cycle, there's the froth. Everybody's a genius. Everybody's going great. Well, there's the froth of a slump cycle. There's the froth of a influencer being, thrown on the table, such as interest rates or a political change or whatever that might be. Right now, what's happening is there's a lot of fear, a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of I got to get out of this deal, and it's happening right now. Well, if you're looking at data that's a month old or 6 weeks or 8 weeks old, you may have already missed the opportunity, or you may not be aware that there's an opportunity developing. And that's one of the things about the power of this particular tool, is being able to get it in virtually real time.
Patrick, I'm reminded because of what you just said, and I know this is an overused quote, but man, it's so on point, especially right now, is when others are fearful, it's time to be greedy. And when others are greedy, it's time to be fearful. Warren Buffett's famous for quoting that. And it's not a question of being greedy. I don't like that word. But my point is when everybody's fearful, that's when there's opportunity. And when everybody's, greedy, that's when you should be fearful as an investor. And we've just lived through an incredible example of that. I mean, Patrick, it was only 18 months ago people couldn't get enough of real estate. Everyone was a genius. Everyone was making money. And you and I were on this very show saying, guys, pay attention. We're at the top of the market. This thing is going to be going down. Be very careful what you get into, and so on and so forth. And we were bang on with that. And now we're telling you the opposite. Everyone is fearful. This is the time when the deals are out there. And I'm living it every single day, Patrick. I've submitted a ton of offers in the last 2 weeks. I've submitted more offers in the last 2 weeks than I have in the last 2 years. And the deals are incredible. I'm knocking off 6 figures off the price. 6 figures. I'm not coming down 10 grand here. I'm chopping it by 6 figures.
Well, again, these are the opportunity for people that understand the market. And, it is really a mental game, isn't it? You got to shake it off. You got to breathe through this fear. You got to go through you got to try and find a different lens to look through than the fear lens. Caution is definitely necessary in these markets, paying attention and looking at the research, looking at the data. But it is a bit of a mental game. You got to shake it off. You got to look at those markets and understand that everybody else is running for the hills. This is not the time to join them.
Interesting. You just talked about, caution, which I think is, and you talked about, and we often speak about probability and possibilities, right? And one of the things that real estate investors have to get dialed in on is the price you pay for real estate dictates a lot of times those probabilities and possibilities. The more you pay for that real estate, the higher the price, the less options you have, and it creates probabilities and possibilities for you. Well, when there are deals at your disposal, like there are right now, depending on the community you're investing in. By the way, you don't have to invest where you live; you can invest elsewhere. My point is based on the price you pay for that real estate, it really opens up those probabilities and opens up those possibilities. And there's no better time for that than right now. Oh, bam, nailed it. Okay, right in the head. The producers are going to be mad at me, but I'm doing an ad hoc sticky note right now. I really liked last time I had a question mark and I kind of threw in a topic. I think I'm going to do that every time where there's going to be an ad hoc topic. Here's my ad hoc topic for today, which is, a big part of what drives the economy is jobs. The better the jobs picture is, we have really low unemployment rate now here in Canada. There's extreme low unemployment rate in the US right now. Patrick, what is the employment status right now? Because the employment is really, and you've said it before, if people have jobs, we're not going to be going into recession when people have jobs. And right now, what does the employment picture look like in this country so that people can get a sense of where this is going? Because the headlines are all over the place. And of course, people read these and they get scared.
Well, there's a couple things that we have to speak to. Number one, it is ticking up slightly. I went from 5.2 to 5.4%, somewhere in that neighborhood. The point of it is that it doesn't seem like a big change, but that is a shift in the trend. And then it was also a very quick shift in the trend. So, it's interesting that we got to play on this a little bit. We got to dig into it. Tiff Macklem is out there saying immigration is important. Otherwise, we're going to have to raise rates even more. It's like, it is talking out both sides of your mouth, Tiff Macklem. What you're saying doesn't make sense. The point is this, is immigration is coming into this country. We're actually not creating enough jobs. So we keep saying that there's a lack of workers and there's more jobs. That is actually reversing. So we are looking at leading indicators again. That's a number that we're going to pay close attention to. We're going to start to really follow it. Good news is lots of employment, but that immigration is in fact going to, I guess, more than fill the jobs that are out there right now. It doesn't seem like it, but it's all the lag that's coming up. So from a leading indicator point of view, I think we will see unemployment start to increase. Nothing to panic about today, but it's there.
Okay. And do you think, Patrick, you often talk about how 6.5% is a good unemployment rate. It's a balanced sort of employment market, if you will. Right now, it's still not a balanced employment market. A lot of people, I actually saw a sign the other day. I stopped over at a great, being a French guy, they have this great sign that says, best Montreal smoked meat, nowhere near Montreal. So I was like, hey, I got to stop here. I need myself a Montreal smoked meat sandwich. You know what I'm saying? So I pull over. I got the big diesel. I got the trailer. I got the tractor. So I pull over. I get to the friggin' thing. You know what it says? Sorry, we're closed Monday and Tuesday. What did it say? We're closed Monday and Tuesday. Can't find workers, something like that. And that's why they were closed. I'm thinking, geez, I still didn't get my Montreal smoked meat sandwich. A lot of people saying that they can't hire, they can't find the talent they're looking for. By the way, Patrick, you know me, you know my thoughts. I think this is 100% false. I have found incredible people. I've been hiring people a lot in the last 6 months, and we found some awesome people. So I don't buy into that bullshit, but what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think, the thing is that you're comparing what you're looking for, let's say trades or, maybe some really skilled administration, but ultimately those jobs are still there and you have workers to fill them. The restaurant industry or the services industry is struggling sometimes to actually attract those people because they can't afford to pay them enough that those individuals can, in fact, make a living, pay their rent. They're increasing rent. So again, it's by sector that we run into the challenges that we face in filling the jobs. And as far as unemployment goes, like real estate, it is very regional. So you look at a healthy unemployment rate, and I forgot to check on Alberta, but I want to say Alberta overall is about 6%. So it's really in that sweet spot. So when we look at Canada overall at 5.4%, you really have to unpack that a little bit and look at specific markets in order to determine where they're at and what they're struggling with. And then, of course, looking at the job sector. When we look at I'm going to say this overall, when we look at Canada, the challenges we're going to face with this increase in rates is that we were so dependent on housing in terms of employment, in terms of GDP. We've talked about it. It's no secret. We've said time and time again is that the real estate industry is what is driving a big part of our economy. And when we slow down, if we slow down real estate, of course, we're going to start to feel the pinch of that. We're not manufacturing more. We're not exporting more. We're not really developing the productivity side of our economy. And this is where we got to see a shift. We have to see that shift in order to be kind of optimistic about a lot of growth into the future. Now, this goes back to the immigration that's coming into the country. There's more than enough immigration to fill the jobs. The level or the quality of the workers coming in or the skill set is where we run into the challenges.
Now, last component to talk about today, Patrick, my final sticky note is it's the summer. This is the last episode until September 7th is going to be our last episode. Really excited about that. People are going to take some time off this summer. What do you recommend they do, Patrick, with their, couple months off of not listening to us? Because we know everybody flocks to this channel to listen to this show. So, if you're listening to this show, what are you doing? What should you be doing?
Well, I think that number one, you should take a break. Enjoy your summer, spend some time with your family. But ultimately, I think that stay engaged. If you're part of the REIN community, stay engaged. Really embrace the technology that we're supporting you around. There's deals to look for, so keep looking and staying educated. Take some time to read. If you're part of the real estate investing, and if you haven't seen real estate investing in Canada, if you haven't got into that program, it's a great time to educate yourself further. We talk a lot about education in order to get ahead of where the market is going. So prepare in advance so that you can take advantage of the shifts in the market.
And there is a summer sale right now on the Real Estate Investing in Canada course. So we recommend you take that. We recommend you study that. But Patrick, we're most excited about some of the technology we're introducing. Come to one of these DI Vault events, folks. Get signed up and come to our DI Discovery Day Deal Intelligence. Some of this tech we're introducing is literally going to blow you away. And I promise you, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you see the possibilities that this unlocks for you, you're not going back to the old way of doing things. And there's so much cool stuff happening right now. And we just got off a meeting literally 35 minutes ago, right before we started this show, about some of the cool artificial intelligence we're bundling into this. We got DI Dan, Deal Intelligence Dan, who's literally going to coach you and guide you on how to do real estate in this marketplace in your particular region, talking about a specific tactic or strategy. I mean, it's mind-blowing stuff, Patrick, but that's what's on the table right now. And there is a huge first mover advantage to those who take advantage of this technology, start using it before everybody else. They will see a disproportionate return on that investment. And I encourage people to dive headfirst into this.
Beautiful. JG, good job.
That's it for another episode of Rated In, ladies and gentlemen. We hope you enjoy the summer. And don't forget, the next episode will drop on September 7th. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, and we'll see you soon.
If you like what you learned here, go to the description below and subscribe for our free Insiders newsletter, where you can also stay up to date for our upcoming events and our courses.
If you want to see more stuff like this, click there.